All right, I want everybody to be seated. All right. Thank you. Did you guys enjoy the tour around the world? Did you love it? Okay, excellent. Now, before I move on to what I would call the pinnacle of tonight's event, I just want to give a shout out to some of our vendors here tonight. I want to begin by recognizing Live Pace Event Planning, who has spearheaded the organization of this event. Please put your hands together and let's recognize Live Pace Event Planning for a job well done. I would highly recommend her for all your future event needs. I would also want to recognize our great folks here on the floor. OBCAM Photo Studio to my left. Make some noise for OBCAM Photo Studio and Videography. And to my right, all the way from Maryland, I would like to recognize Pro Media, who is in charge of our live streaming tonight all around the world. Please make some noise for him as well. I would also want to recognize the CDC Lab, who is the Competency Development Lab that's in charge of some of the behind-the-scenes technical work that is going on tonight. Make some noise for them too as well. And of course, the last but not the least is the person who has the power to break and make tonight's event. And that is a one and only. You have to clap for this person. The best DJ, Sound of the River, Mississippi, DJ Bombastic, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Perfect. Without any much ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our keynote speaker of the night. This is somebody that we all know. He's someone who is somebody of the community, very rich in talent, very rich in skill. He's a very handsome gentleman, very promising. He has done a lot of good work for the community. But professionally, he is in the world of finance and accounting. He has his CFA, and he is the Vice President of Business Development for Capital Group. And he's in charge of institutional pension fund development. How about that? Pension fund development, I love that. Across the East Coast, can you imagine? He's also the founder and CEO of Peace and Comfort Medical Foundation, a non-profit organization in Cameroon that he founded to honor the memory of his parents who has both passed away because of preventable causes. We know what that means, preventable causes. His goal is to provide peace and comfort to other members of his community in need. We are so fortunate, we are so lucky to have him here tonight to come and touch our hearts, to come and inspire all of us, to come and motivate us, to come and tie together the importance of this event tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. If you look across me, you will tell who this person is. Our one and only, Mr. Barnabas Mbighe in the house. Our keynote speaker for the night. Thank
Thank you, MC Farouk, for that wonderful introduction. I want to start the evening by saying thank you all for sacrificing your time to be here tonight. And I also want to thank Alpha and his team at Excellence and Impact Foundation for the incredible honor of having me as the keynote speaker for tonight. I see a lot of familiar faces in the room, and so I thank you for being here. Of course, having lived here for 11 years, it always feels like coming home whenever I'm back in Phoenix. So I was born and raised in Cameroon, in the remote village in the northwest province, in a family of 16 brothers and sisters. Now, if you're wondering, my father had 2 wives. And my mother alone had 11 of us. 9 of us are still alive. I'm smack in the middle, so I have 4 ahead of me and 4 behind me. But we all grew up in the same compound, in abject poverty. If you think about growing up without electricity, 2004 is not too far away. Our village did not have electricity until 2004. And that means studying with a bush lamp, a kerosene lamp. Sometimes the globe breaks and you have to devise a different method to study. And that's how I went through elementary and secondary school. Now, at a very tender age, I knew education was the only way to break that poverty cycle. So I took my education very seriously. And I was always in the top 3 of my class. Actually, the first more than I was second or third. Despite being kicked out of class multiple times a year because my parents could not afford the fees. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, I had to cut hair. I ran a barber shop with my cousin on the weekends and on market days, and that's how I paid my way through secondary school. Now, for the folks in the room who are older, think about where you were in 1993. And I want you to picture a young boy walking barefoot to school for miles because his parents could not afford a pair of shoes. That kid cutting hair on the weekends to pay his way through school will eventually become the first in the 12-year history of the school to pass in all 11 subjects at the GCE ordinary levels. This achievement caught the attention of an extended family member who decided to sponsor me through high school and eventually university. I went to university, studied banking and finance, and eventually graduated as the best student in banking and finance. Another achievement. In my final year of college, I won the diversity lottery, which a lot of people in the room know about. And so I spent the last year processing immigration paperwork to come to the States. As many of you in the room know, when you come here in late 2010s, healthcare was sort of the only way out. People would tell you you have to start as a certified nursing assistant, go on to become a, what is it called, a PRN or something, and then you become an RN. And if you're passionate enough, you go on to become a doctor or a pharmacist, whatever the case may be in healthcare. So my aunt forcefully registered me for a CNA class. CNA is Certified Nursing Assistant. And I attended this class for 2 weeks. And I kept telling myself, I have no idea what I'm doing here. And for 2 weeks, I canceled the class. I lost half of the money. The reason being, I was always passionate about financial services. After multiple applications and interviews and rejections, I eventually landed my first job as a courtesy clerk at a Safeway store. Now, I had no idea what a courtesy clerk did. And so on my first day on the job, I was well dressed in a black pair of pants and a shirt and a tie, very excited on the floor. And this young lady stopped me and said, "Sir, are you the new service manager?" And I proudly said, "No, I'm the new courtesy clerk." And then she gave me this look and said, "You're too dressed nice to be a courtesy clerk." I said, "Well, maybe I need to check my job description. What does a courtesy clerk do?" Well, if you're wondering, courtesy clerks, when you go to the store, they're the ones collecting carts when people shop and leave carts in the parking lot. They're collecting those and bringing them to the front of the store. They're helping little old ladies back groceries and take them to their car. That was my job. And in Oregon, back then, they recycle cans and bottles. If you've ever put cans and bottles in a a trash bag and kept them for a week or two, you know that smell that comes out of it. So the recycle machine was constantly jamming. And guess whose job it is to unjam it? You guessed that right, the courtesy clerk. So I would get called every 30 minutes to unjam the recycle machine. So fast forward, I spent about 3 months in my courtesy clerk role, and then eventually land a part-time job at US Bank as a teller. Now, that was my first sort of step into the financial services industry. I spent about 9 months in that role, moved to Arizona in 2012, spent about 3.5 years at Wells Fargo, working with some incredible people, incredible co-workers who turned friends. Matt Jackson, Renee Rojas, thank you for being here tonight. So many years ago, and we continue to go along as friends. I then moved to Vanguard in 2015. I spent nearly 7 years working with, again, some of the most amazing people I've ever come across, one of whom is my former manager, Mike Manfrey, who is here tonight as well. Mike is the best manager I've ever worked for, and so I want to say thank you for your mentorship, thank you for your support all these years. Even as I progressed in my career, I didn't stop pursuing education. So I earned an MBA in finance from Grand Canyon University right here in Phoenix, passed a bunch of industry certifications, including the CFA Charter, which is one of the most challenging exams in the world. And today, I am honored to stand before you as a senior vice president at one of the most respected and biggest investment management firms in the world. I share this journey not to boast, but to inspire, especially the younger folks among us. We are privileged to live in the best country in the world. I encourage you to take advantage of the opportunities this country offers by leveling the playing field. Make sure you're the best at what you do. As you will see, it is absolutely possible to achieve anything that you can put your mind to and your heart in this country. All the honorees tonight are a testament to that. So I encourage you, take advantage of the opportunities. We all know where we come from. The opportunities don't exist as you would expect. The governments have failed in most cases. And so it is upon us. If you find yourself in, again, the best country in the world, be proud of it. Take advantage of that. And a piece of advice for the folks who are thinking, okay, how did you accomplish this much? I would say, be the best at what you do. Whether it's being a courtesy clerk at Safeway or a teller at US Bank, be the absolute best at it, because people will notice. Mike Manfrey gave me a 3-level jump. That was unheard of at the time. Sorry for putting you on the spotlight. But that is because you do good work and it gets recognized. So put in the effort. And as far as you continue to do the best in your current job, make sure you are taking the steps, whether it's through education, certifications, to position yourself for that next opportunity when it does present itself. Like many of you, I carry with me stories of love and loss. Stories that have shaped me, my path, and everything that now drives me. But a few experiences in life compared to the agony of watching loved ones go, especially the ones that are near and dear to your heart. For me, that was not just once, but twice. My father and my mother, who both passed away from a heart attack. Coincidentally, both in my arms, 11 years apart. In 2010, my father fell ill, and I took him to the hospital. He walked on his 2 feet, was cracking jokes. The nurses were laughing. Next thing I know, They gave him a shot and it sparked a heart attack. The nurses stood idly by and watched as I held my father and watched him gasp for air until he took his last breath. I didn't know any better. Now I know somebody could have attempted CPR to try and save his life. They could have called the doctor. I was heartbroken, devastated. But 3 months after his funeral, I would have to pack up my luggage, bid farewell to friends and family, and take a one-way flight to the United States. Fast forward, I eventually bring my mother to the United States, who had been battling diabetes and high blood pressure for over a decade. And in November 2021, right here in my home in Gilbert, Arizona, she too had a heart attack in the early morning of November 15. And just like my father, I held my mother helplessly and watched her take her last breath before the paramedics got there. These events traumatized me. I was left with two options. One, allow the pain to drive me down this spiral web. Or I could turn that pain and channel it into something positive. I chose the latter. I decided to turn that trauma into hope for my community. And that's why I founded the Peace and Comfort Heart Foundation, a 501c3 that is registered here in the United States, with a mission to reduce heart disease and save lives in Cameroon and across Africa. For many years, much of the health focus in sub-Saharan Africa has been directed towards diseases like malaria and HIV. And while this attention is critical, that means cardiovascular disease has kind of taken a backseat. But it is one of the top killers in the country and across Africa, because a lot of people like my father go on for years with either diabetes or high blood pressure undiagnosed. And by the time they fall seriously ill and go to the hospital, it might be too late. So as an extension of my Heart Foundation, I decided to build a hospital in Cameroon called the Peace and Comfort Medical Foundation. Before we broke ground for the construction in 2022, Peace and Comfort sponsored its first free healthcare campaign in a remote village in Mbighe. I shared some of the pictures that you might have seen here on the screen. The team went into that village with medicine and all kinds of equipment, and they treated patients, they treated elderly people, they treated kids that without access to that kind of free healthcare, they probably would not have any treatment. And so now as we speak, I am very proud to announce that a container of medical equipment and supplies just arrived Cameroon yesterday. Thanks to our partners at Project Cure. And I do want to shout out our friend Alpha, who is the host, because Alpha introduced me to Project Cure. When I started this project, I was already making connections in China. I was talking to folks about making a trip to buy all the equipment and supplies and ship from China. And then he introduced me to Project Cure. And fast forward, multiple months later, we now have a 40-foot container of 50% equipment, 50% supplies sitting in Cameroon right now. And that means with that valuable equipment, we are scheduled to launch the hospital on October 26th of this year. This happens to be the 14th anniversary of my father's passing. So I feel incredibly proud that we will be launching the hospital in his honor. So I encourage you to spread the word and join us in any way you can, whether it's through donations, whether it's volunteering, or simply sharing the story. You can find more information on this on our website at www.pcandcomfort.org. pcheartfoundation.org. That's P for Paul, C for Charlie, pcheartfoundation.org. In closing, I want to thank all of you once again for being here tonight. All the honorees, congratulations. Keep doing the great work, keep impacting your communities. Alpha and the team at Excellence and Impact Foundation, you have my deepest gratitude. Together, we can make a difference, not just in the lives of others, but in the lives of everybody in our communities, far beyond Cameroon, across Africa, and the world at large. With that, I want to say thank you again for being here tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you.